What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel as you come in and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak on an article that well, not an article, a video that I recently saw from a content creator, a guy from KTV, right? Shout out to KTV, and he was talking about an article where the owners were speaking uh, about the collective bargaining agreement and how they don't have enough money to, how they don't have money and they don't think that the WNBA is a sustainable like they can't make a sustainable profit off of the WNBA, right? And so let me see what is the I'm gonna pull up this article because I'm just gonna give my input on what I think about this article. I just think that this article is in my opinion it's just really just like propaganda, right? Let me see if I can pull this article up. All right, so here go the article right here. Where this article come from? Now the title the title of this article is sports press covers WNBA negotiations from owner's point of view, right? And so it says, let me see if I got it big enough. All right, it's big. um Now it says Women's National Basketball Association players have quickly become some of the most recognizable female athletes in the world, ballooning in ticket sales and record breaking viewership over the past two seasons as a result of revenues have shared, right? Now, first, right there, even starting out in this article, like that statement right there makes it just seems like there has never been a demand for women's basketball, right? And so they don't want you. All right, so the WNBA I think was started back in 1998, and they keep saying that the WNBA has not been profitable. But anybody who runs a business knows that you don't operate a business for 20 to 30 years if the business has not been profitable, right? That's number one. Number two, you there are so many different ways to make money from basketball. Like when you have merchandise, then you got ticket sales. Those are like what people like merchandise and ticket sales are what people are used to hearing about, right? Now you have so many different ways like to sell merchandise. Then you got streaming. It's just a lot of different ways that people are not even really caught up on as far as when it comes to making money off of basketball. And not only is it like that for the WNBA, but it's like that for the NBA. Like they'll talk about like opening the books and letting the players see like what the revenue is about or what the revenue is. And they'll show you certain things. They'll show you what they want you to see, but they won't give you the whole picture or access to everything, right? Take for instance the NBA. I think they have like a 50% revenue sharing with the players have 50% revenue sharing with the owners and the NBA. What business do you know is going to give you 50% of their business and you are an employee? That's like if I worked at McDonald's, like McDonald's is not going to give you 50% of revenues. Um, like 50%, like for every burger they sell, they're gonna give you half the money from that. It don't work like that, and businesses don't operate like that. And I'm just surprised that people even think that's the only thing that is going on here. Like I said, the NBA and the WNBA, they just have so many different ways of making money. And so I'm saying that because the money and the demand for the women's basketball league has already always been there. And when you think about like how other countries around the world have had basketball leagues, like for instance, let me see, Italy, they established a professional women's basketball league in 1930, right? So and women go from the United States, like once they finish college here in the States, a lot of women have went to Italy and played professional basketball for years because it was not like they didn't have a professional league here in the United States. So people will go from, if you wanted to uh, pursue a career in professional basketball, Italy was an option. You could go to. I remember what was it? Cynthia Cooper played in Italy. She played professional basketball in Italy after she left college. At USC, she played with who? She played with Cheryl Swoops. She played with the McGee twins, and they had at USC. They had that team was a beast, right? And so she played overseas in Italy, and probably a whole lot of young ladies who left the United States played in Italy. So why would any league like if it's not making a profit, why would anybody have a professional women's league? You know, it don't make good business sense. So people, I can't believe that people is still uh, buying that. And I did some research and I found out that there actually was a professional women's league here in the United States. It was called a WBL, and it started in 1978. Now it only lasts for 3 seasons, right? And I think this country right here, when it comes to women's sports and paying female athletes, this country right here is just the worst when it comes to that. Like, and I made other videos because like when you think about athletes like Serena Williams, Venus Williams, um, any professional athlete from the United States that makes some money, they make good money in sports that are like an international sports like tennis, golf. But if you are a female athlete and you play basketball here in the United States, you're not really gonna make uh you're not really gonna get paid. If you're a female boxer or a female that participates in like the MMA and stuff like that, not gonna make no money. You gotta go outside of this country as a female, and that's why I brought up Italy. Australia, when did they had a league in Australia? Australia started their professional women's basketball league in 1981. Japan, now they had leagues in Japan going way back, but their first professional league um technically was like in 19 this was in 1998. Russia started a professional league. Russia had professional leagues too for years, but their first ones that like technically like where they listed was 1992, right? And all of these countries had leagues, in my opinion, way before the United States. Like I said, although Russia started their league like in 1992, but they always like people used to go from college. Like I said, these women used to leave college in the 70s and in the 80s and go play in Russia. They used to go play in Italy. They played in Japan. They played in Australia, right? Um, because those leagues paid money. They allowed these ladies to make money. Um, you know, so when the WNBA puts out this kind of article, right? And the article says this issue right here says unsustainable business, unsustainable business, right? And so this is a word that they've been using a lot. So they're just trying to say that like what you have recently seen with Caitlin Clark when she came out of college, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, they're not going to be able just because you've seen that like that upswing in attention, that upswing in that fan base. They're trying to say that that's not sustainable, right? Which I can kind of see. All right, a lot of people are following Caitlin Clark, and a lot of people, she have a big fan base because of her and Angel Reese. But even with that, when they was coming out of college, I said that these young ladies were going to be like, as far as they're just basically pawns. Basically, the WNBA is going to use these ladies, um, and then they're going to pay them some money, but they're not going to pay them what they're worth. And I just think that the WNBA, like this, has always been, especially here in the United States, because the way we love basketball, there's always been a market for women's basketball. That's why they would not have even bought it back in 1998 if there was not a demand for it, you know. But this country is really just prejudiced against women, and as far as like women being able to make like big money in sports, they're not going to allow them to do that. And so they try to make it seem like, in my opinion, they try to make it seem like, oh well, the demand is not there. With modern technology, like I said, it's just so many different ways for them to capitalize and make money off of these women, besides ticket sales, besides merchandise. Now you got streaming, you got podcasts, like they can do different. It's just so many different ways. That's why the WNBA had to, because people catching on. The WNBA, they have to expand. They're not expanding because they want to. They're expanding because they gotta expand because of the demand for the sport. If it wasn't making a profit, you would just tell people like, look, we can't expand. But this country just don't, in my opinion, they just don't want to see they don't want to see women make, make money. And as an example, I use like women from other sports, like what professional women's sport in the United States where women don't have to, they don't have to really struggle to make money or make a living off of their sport. Like I said, only tennis players and golf players, they'll get paid, like I said, because their sport are international sports and they got to go outside this country to get their money. But if your sport is based here in the United States, like if you're a volleyball player, basketball player, um, you know, you're not really gonna be able to make no money here because they just don't want to see women make money, man, and they not gonna come up off of it. So, and I know that who was the other guy? Like I said, the guy from KTV had a different perspective, right? Because and not to criticize, but I just think that some people just take these articles and y'all should go and I recommend you go read the article. But when you read these articles, don't just take these articles at face value, right? Do some research like why would you run companies that don't make money like out of the kindness of your heart? That business people don't do that, and then why would you buy a franchise? Like they're selling franchise for the WNBA and people come you're gonna come into the league knowing that you're not gonna make no money. It don't, business don't work like that. It's just a lot of ways to make money that people don't know about, people not familiar with right now. Um, these big business people are experts at hiding their money. They do it in the NBA, they do it professional football, they do it in all sports. They give you a little bit, make it seem like they're giving you a lot. People throw around, like I said, the NBA, they throw around that 50% revenue sharing. You're not getting 50%. People who work for me, I don't pay nobody 50% of, my profits. No, I don't know no business that's going to pay an employee 50% of the profits. If that's the case, what's the purpose of being a business owner if you got to give 50% of the profits to your employees? So that's my take on it, man. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next episode.